Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Saw X. This is a new film from 2023, rated R with a runtime of an hour and 58 minutes. As of the recording of this video, we have a Rotten Tomato score of 79% for the critics, 89% from the audience, and a Letterboxd average score of 3.3 stars. In this film, John Kramer is back. The most chilling installment of the Saw franchise yet explores the untold chapter of Jigsaw's most personal game. Set between the events of Saw 1 and 2, a sick and desperate John travels to Mexico for a risky experimental medical procedure in hopes to find a cure for his cancer, only to discover the entire operation is a scam to defraud the most vulnerable. Armed with a newfound purpose, John returns to his work, turning the tables on the con artist in his signature visceral way through a series of ingenious and terrifying traps. This film is directed by Kevin Grutert, who also directed Saw 6 and Saw 7, aka Saw 3D, and is written by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg. This movie stars Tobin Bell returning as John Kramer, Shawnee Smith as Amanda Young, Shion Makoto Lund as Cecilia Peterson, Stephen Brand as Parker Sears, Renata Vaca as Gabriela, Joshua Okamoto as Diego, Octavio Hinojosa as Mateo, and Paulette Hernandez as Valentina. So I used to be a really, really big fan of the Saw franchise when it originally kicked off. I love the first film. I think I also very fondly remember 2 through 4 or 5. From there, I feel like some of the movies went off the rail, which some of those films were directed by the same director. So I was a little hesitant going into this. I didn't get a chance to go watch this in the theater because I also kind of grew away from all the gore and like the traps and everything. So I was hesitant to go check this out. Now that it's out on VOD, I was able to check it out because at home I feel like I have more control over the environment of watching the film, which is really interesting. I think this movie really brings up some of the things that I enjoy the most about the Saw franchise. First of all, Tobin Bell coming back as John Kramer. Like he was always the heart and the driving force behind these films, in my opinion. Even if you didn't see him as much in specifically the first one, there was always there a looming presence that Tobin Bell brought into the role, and in this one is no different. He is such a great actor at portraying this character, specifically at this stage of his life where he's very sick. He looks very sickly and just like very much like closing on the end, like desperate to find a way to beat his cancer and his illness and get back to his work. And just yeah, Tobin Bell delivers, I think, a great performance all throughout the film. Like he was definitely one of the highlights of this film. Now, this film is not perfect per se, um, because in the past, some of the films just they fail to capitalize on Tobin Bell and then John Kramer, like the character that they had worked so hard to bring in. Right, once he was kind of off the board, um, they just kind of moved aside, and which is weird. But now he's back center stage, so that's really cool. I think this film also focuses a little bit more on like some of the original ideas of like why is John Kramer going through all this. There's a little bit of commentary, and this is all very surface level commentary on like healthcare in America, and also just like judging people. Like there's a little bit of some of that stuff, but it's nothing too deep. But it's still something that kind of drives the film. I think that's an aspect that anybody who's had to deal with uh, just insurance or healthcare or even an illness, like it's something that it's relatable. So the film definitely goes out for the widest audience when it comes to that, and it just gets rid of some of the more silly stuff that evolved from the later chapters where the story got very convoluted. There was a lot of like double turns and tricks and traps and like hidden characters and stuff like that, which is still fun. But this film kind of does away with that because the way it's set up in between films 1 and 2. um, the let's say that the group, John Kramer's gang, is a little bit smaller than right. His mission hadn't touched as many individuals as we know now. So that's really cool. It really to me, this feels like it fits right in into the franchise, which is really great. And it also the fact that it focuses the most on something that's so personal to John, like the fact that he's the one that was scammed, he's the one that was toyed around with, and the worst part is that he had hope after all those years of looking for a cure, looking for something to keep him going, because he didn't want to give up. Right, that's his whole thing. Like, do you how bad do you want to live? That's his whole thing of putting people in the traps. He himself had hope, and he was fighting, and then in the end, it all turns out to be a scam, and that's just it's heartbreaking. But then that's when the film kicks into a different gear, and it becomes the Saw films that we know. So it's almost as if this film is two films. Like, I really like both parts of the film. I think the beginning is a lot stronger. Once this goes into the Saw shenanigans, I think that's where your mileage may vary, uh, because of the traps. Like, not everyone enjoys all the traps. Not everyone enjoys the gore, the campiness, and how silly some of these things can be. Uh, I think everyone else delivers a good performance overall. Like, it feels like it's something that really fits in this world, so that's pretty fun to see. I think the setting of Mexico City works out. I saw online a few critiques of like the yellow filter and stuff. I wasn't bothered by that because of as someone who's been to Mexico City, I know that the pollution and light pollution and stuff like that really do give it that grimy look sometimes. Now, this doesn't make as much sense when they go out into the rural area, but yeah, I think it's a choice that the filmmakers made. It's probably not the best choice. So I thought that was interesting that they continue to kind of make it like just anything south of the border continues to be washed out by that yellow orange type of filter, which is just wild to me. But yeah, I think some of the traps were pretty interesting. They were cool. They were thematically made sense with what John had just been through, um, and even the twists and turns at the end. I still think they were fun. Sometimes they got a little cheesy, but I don't mind the little cheesiness on my Saw. So yeah, I feel like this may be the best film since maybe one or two. Like, those are one and two are at the top of my list, and this one's also now at the top of my list. So I quite enjoyed this one. So if you have seen this film, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. Let me know what are your favorite entries from the Saw franchise. That being said, I was also somebody that enjoyed Spiral overall for what it was, which is not really a Saw film, but it's a film that knows that Saw is a film and wants to do its own thing. So let me know what you think of that as well. I think Spiral was an interesting entry in the franchise. Um, I feel like I haven't seen Jigsaw, which is the latest one, and I don't remember too much about Saw 3D, but I do remember the opening series. So, yeah, there's some really cool lore and story behind the Saw franchise. So maybe at some point I'll revisit. I really feel like I stopped watching because the gore really ramped up in some pieces, in some parts, and I just was not really into that. Like, that's not kind of what I wanted to watch in my horror. And I think also movies kind of pivoted away from that after that whole era. So yeah. Well, anyway, as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.